Hello, and thank you for joining our Facebook Live this afternoon.
My name is Caitlin McLeod, and I'm the Supervisor for Residence Life Education and Leadership.
And I'm Ian Schultz, and I'm one of the residence coordinators with Lister Center here at the University of Alberta. Part of my role is supervising our resident assistant and senior resident assistant staff here in residence.
And I oversee the Education and Leadership Office that takes over service learning opportunities, the student staff training, as well as a variety of leadership and professional development programs.
So over the next 30 minutes, Caitlin and I will be giving a little bit of detail regarding our student staff and student leader positions, as well as explaining a bit more about our application process. And hopefully we'll get some really great questions from you folks on things that you're curious about what it means to be a student leader, and sort of what the next few weeks will look like in terms of our staff process. So to get things started, we're just going to identify what positions we currently are recruiting for. So within Residence Life, we're currently looking for part-time paid positions of resident assistants, so student staff who live on each floor or in each community to supervise residents' community standards, educational and co-curricular programming, health and safety programs and initiatives for students, and peer-to-peer guidance and advising. And then senior resident assistants who assist with supervision of our RA teams and work very closely with our residence coordinators to build cohesive teams and support residence-wide projects. We also are selecting for our peer tutors who live specifically in our Lister Center residence and who help students in their first year with a variety of different courses which are offered, running sort of tutorial sessions once a week. We're also looking for our crew leaders, who are a group of volunteers who work on programs Lister-wide focused on themes related to the student cycle, including health and wellness, co-curricular, social programming, all those sorts of things, and they do that through active and both passive programs or bulletin boards. And finally, we're also recruiting for our volunteer orientation mentors, which is a new position we're looking for this year, which will be upper year students who are paired with first generation, first year students to help guide them through their first 9 weeks of their university experience and looking at their residence experience as well.
Yeah, so we also have a variety of paraprofessional intern roles. So there's 3 different types of interns that you can apply for. One intern that works directly in Lister Center, the engagement and events intern. So they'll work on move-in with our marketing and communications team, as well as they'll supervise those crew leaders that Ian was just talking about. Within my office, I actually supervise a variety of intern roles as well. So we have a new intern position, the technology and video and graphic design intern. And their project is going to be working on the different e-class and technological components of our training and orientation programs. We also have the Residence Life intern position, and they work on Engage Edmonton and other service learning initiatives, as well as help support the base camp and Eastern Ascent planning and coordination. We also have some really cool programmer-specific roles that work on targeted niche populations. So specifically, we have an Aboriginal programmer position who programs events and different activities for Aboriginal students who live in residence, as well as a sexual and gender minority programmer and an arts leadership cohort leader. For some of those roles, you actually don't have to live in residence to apply and program.
So as you can tell, there's no shortage of opportunities on how to get involved in residence, either a student leader or a student staff member. It seems to me we'll make that some of these positions are paid and some are volunteer, but they're all valuable in terms of giving back to one's community and building some really solid batch of skills as you move forward in your degree. All of our applications and job descriptions are posted online on the Resident Services website under the Jobs and Residence page. And for most of them, you'll apply through a portal called eResLife, which is an online application portal. If you are applying in a different method, such as by email, that will be clearly indicated on the job description. So to get things started, we'll maybe answer some common questions that may have come up. So one question that we got submitted was, how many hours can I realistically expect to work each month? So this is maybe looking for, if we're looking at resident assistants or senior resident assistants, resident assistants typically, in a typical day, work about 5 hours a week. And every other week, they might be working a 3.5 to 6 hour shift or community support shift, which is sort of that emergency and personal response responsibilities. Staff are also compensated for all training and orientation activities. So at some points in the year, you might receive more compensation than average. For our senior resident assistants, we're looking at about 7 to 8 hours a week in addition to a 3.5 to 6 hour community support shift in addition to that. Crew leaders and peer tutors are both volunteer positions, and they're approximately 15 hours a month. These positions tend to be more flexible in terms of hours and at peak periods. We also have a variety of programmer roles, such as the sexual gender minority programmer, that work approximately 3 to 5 hours a week in developing the intentional programmer for targeted communities.
Yeah, and those intern roles that I was talking about are full-time during the summer months and then go down to part-time during the school year.
For sure. So for a lot of our positions, a lot of the work is quite flexible and can be done on one's own schedule with the sort of the parameters of the number of allotted hours. But there are things to take into consideration, whether they be weekly team meetings or that shift work, which will be scheduled in advance. So students will have some areas where they will have to plan their schedules around their work commitments.
Speaking of flexibility of roles, Ian, that reminds me of one of the questions that we got earlier. Was what if I had a scheduled shift and I was an RA, but I had an exam the next day?
For sure. So if you're scheduled for a shift that you may not be able to make or commit to, the best thing to do is try and find another RA or student staff member who you can switch shifts with, so that you're both receiving the equal compensation and the hours that you are allotted, and there's no conflict there. If in any case that a switch isn't possible, you do have the opportunity to either give up a shift or speak with your supervisor to talk about alternative options. So for the most part, the switching system has been very effective in terms of allowing our student staff to make their commitments outside of their work commitments as well.
Awesome.
So one of the questions is why have we seen maybe more RAs resign this year than previous years? And I think a good reason for that is this year we launched a new model for our student staff roles, and the final details of this were not able to be confirmed until after the application and hiring process was complete. So when student staff began in their roles in August, the job they maybe were expecting was a little bit different than what the new model allotted for in terms of expectations. So student staff had to make a choice in regards to whether or not the job matched their needs any further. So that's why we may have seen some resignations or attrition. We're in a good place this year in the sense that we have a lot of the information that we can share very openly after those negotiations have finalized. So we're able to really give a realistic idea of what the roles will be this year.
So one of the questions that I often get asked in the leadership office is questions around volunteer opportunities. What are the value of volunteering specifically in residence? So volunteer opportunities, and I know Ian, you've taken on a variety of volunteer roles in your university career. Volunteer opportunities are a really great way to develop those leadership skills and often have a more flexible time commitment than those paid student staff positions. So specifically taking on mentorship roles within residence is a great way to be a really meaningful contributor to our positive residence communities and having a lot of fun while you're at it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's still a lot of really added benefits of being a volunteer in terms of some of the opportunities that you're allotted. So for a lot of the cases, there may be many different appreciation activities that you're allotted, or for some of them, they might have free meals at their meetings or those sorts of things. So even if it's not financial compensation, you still are receiving a lot of great opportunities and incentives in your role that can be really helpful to you as a student and your professional development as well.
Yeah, and speaking of professional development, a lot of those roles will actually go on your co-curricular record at the University of Alberta. So that's the record, your unofficial transcript of all the extracurricular activities you take on while you're a student here.
Yeah, absolutely. So another question that we got ahead of time was, what are the main differences between the roles, sort of specifically looking at Lister?
That's awesome.
Yeah. So one of the biggest differences is sort of the scope of the role. So for our RAs or resident assistants, a lot of their focus is on their core community. And a lot of that focus is on that sort of safety, security, inclusivity, creating a balanced community. And of course, they have the added additional role of ensuring when they're on shift that our residents as a whole is safe and secure and that students are getting the support that they need. For our other roles, such as the crew leader positions, obviously their focus is a little bit more on residence-wide programming, so looking at the Lister community as a whole and how best they can support it at different student needs. And then with things like a dodgeball liaison, their focus is more on facilitating the Lister Dodgeball League within residence, and our peer tutors have that specific academic focus as well. So a lot of it is what's the focus of the role, and also what is the scope of what students are looking for. So if you have a particular passion that you're looking for, we do have sort of a variety of roles that can facilitate that.
Yeah. Hey, Ian, what would you say to an RA who's wondering how much they could expect to get paid in the RA role?
Yeah, I'd say that, there's definitely peaks in terms of compensation. As we mentioned before, student staff are compensated for the entirety of the training. So you can expect with training being around 60 to 70 hours at the $13.60 rate, you can expect quite a bit of compensation at the beginning of the year. And then during the year, we do our best to ensure that all of our staff are allotted a similar amount of hours. So for example, that amount of monthly hours can range from about 15 to 20 in terms of your baseline responsibilities, such as community meetings, programming responsibilities, checking in with residents. And as we mentioned, in terms of the shift schedule, most staff work about in terms of RAs, like one to two shifts every 2 weeks. But for our senior staff, it's about one to two shifts a week. So combined with that, you're looking at potentially between 15 to about 30 hours a week, depending on how many shifts you're working, and if you're picking up shifts from other staff or giving up shifts to other staff, that'll obviously affect your compensation as well.
So one of the other questions we have here is, if I haven't lived in residence before, can I still apply for roles? And our answer to that would be absolutely, please do. The hiring committee is going to be looking for leadership skills in a variety of venues and ventures that you've taken on. So bringing in those external experiences is really valuable in these types of positions.
For sure. We are looking for students, staff from across many different backgrounds and disciplines, and that living in residence is not a prerequisite. And as Caitlin mentioned, for many of our roles in the Residence Education Leadership Office, they don't have a live-in requirement. So you can still be a part of residence life even if you're not living on campus, as well as for those roles. There's also a question is, do I get to choose where I want to be an RA? So the answer is that you can definitely indicate a preference in terms of if you're willing to be an RA in Hub, East Campus Village, Classic Lister, those sorts of things. So when you complete your application, you have the ability to make that distinction. And we won't assign someone to be a staff in an area they haven't chosen as a preference. Because we want to be respectful of the fact that there's many different residence unit types and rental rates that are taken into consideration when people make that choice. With that being said, when you look at us, if you're given us preferences, we will be using all that preferences as a guide to where we can assign you and where we think is the best fit. And specifically in Lister, student staff don't have the ability to choose within the Classic Tower which specific Classic Tower they'd like to work in. If that's kind of your policy, they'll simply indicate they're willing to work in a Classic Lister environment, Schaefer, or our new Lister 5 residences that would be open as well.
Hey, Ian, what if I was interested in being an RA and an SRA and a programmer?
So if you are interested in lots of our different roles, then you submit separate applications for each one. Depending on the role, we wouldn't likely interview you individually for each position. So we may use one interview to make a decision on sort of your overall characteristics. But you're definitely encouraged to apply for as many as you might be interested in and completing separate applications that way. With that being said, we do want you to consider what your preference of a role would be, and that is something we would ask you in the interview is what your most preferred role is, so we have that into consideration when making our decisions. Cool. So what would you say are some of the common duties and responsibilities of resident staff, Caitlin?
Yeah, so again, it really depends on your position. What your day-to-day looks like for an RA is going to depend on where you're a resident assistant, and what the rest of your week kind of looks like. But typical duties would be perhaps you have an on shift, so you're working that evening and doing rounds and managing the safety and security of the community. Or perhaps you're running a program in your community. So following the support of the community development funds that are used to plan intentional positive programs to help build sense of community, or even checking in on your residents. So to, again, check in to see how folks are doing and helping support that positive university experience that we strive to have in resident life.
Yeah, that's a really great summary. So that they are very broad positions, particularly in the RA or senior resident assistant role. And then some of our more intern roles or our different student positions like food tutors, scholarship liaisons are a little bit more focused. But definitely all our roles involve, making sure that our community is a fun and safe and secure place to live here in residence.
Yeah. So Ian, you mentioned before that RAs have kind of that peak period when they come back for training at the beginning of the summer. So can you tell us a little bit about what fall training is like?
For sure. So our fall training is very much focused on building skills and abilities that our student staff will need in their roles. So we first off starting by doing some intensive training for our senior resident assistants before our resident assistant staff arrive, which is all sort of focused on leadership development, those team management skills, supervision, those sorts of things. And then with RA training, it's a lot of looking at, what are the main skills you need as an RA. So we do really thorough training on assertiveness, active listening, peer helping, mental health awareness, all those sorts of things that you would need for all components of the RA role. We follow a blended learning model. So part of our training in terms of more the theoretical or the content-heavy pieces are completed on eClass, so online Moodle program. And then our sessions in person are much more focused on practice and active application of those skills. So it's a really good way of learning and make sure we get the most of our time with students. Our training this year will be going on to the last 2 weeks of August, and can usually be expected to be about a 6 to 8 hour day in terms of what we're doing. All meals are usually provided during training as well. We also have a lot of fun things that go on too, including themes for training, different activities where you can win prizes or engagement activities, and a training banquet as well. It's a really fun time as much as there's lots of learning as well.
Yeah, so training starts the 13th for those senior RA positions and the 14th of August for those resident assistant positions. As Ian said, there is a theme, and no spoilers, but I already know what it's going to be for August. So hopefully we'll see you there so you can find out. Yeah.
Previous themes have included Harry Potter and Jurassic World, so we definitely like to go all out with what we do for our themes, which is very fun. So one of the questions is, can non-students work in our student staff roles?
Yeah, so unfortunately, the positions that are available from resident services are for students attending the University of Alberta. As we said before, not all of those positions actually require you to live in residence, but they do require you to be a student at the UAlberta.
Yeah, that's a great point. However, if you are a student who is transferring to the university, who has a lot of the skills and abilities that we're looking for from another institution, you are welcome to apply for these positions as well. Particularly if you might have been an RA or another resident student leader at another institution.
Yeah. Speaking of training, one of the questions that we got that related to it was, what if a student staff is unable to make the training that happens in August?
Yes, so part of the application process and the interview process is a significant reminder of what the expectations are. So all in terms of time and dates. So all of our student staff will be given a postcard if they go through our interview process, which indicates all of the mandatory training dates, which will happen in the summer as well as during the academic year, and any other major responsibilities. So our hope is that if a student staff is accepting a position, they have made sure that they will be available for all of those dates. If they're unable to make training or any of those important dates, they do need to contact their supervisor immediately. And it is a mandatory thing, so we may or may not be able to accommodate it. So really, we're making that decision on whether they're taking on a role. It's our expectation that availability will be something that is a commitment.
Hey, Ian, I know you are a resident assistant at UBC.
Yes.
What would you say was your favorite part of the role?
I think I really enjoyed, meeting lots of different types of students. I think, our communities at UBC and our communities here, they're so diverse in terms of where students come from, in terms of their background, their way of thinking, what can be what their country of origin is, or just, what their interests are. So I enjoy meeting lots of different types of people and being able to figure out ways like how to support individuals, but also form a cohesive community amongst such a diverse population. And I think I also enjoy working with a lot of like-minded and passionate student leaders, people who share my interests, but are maybe different than me or challenge me, and working in that team environment is always a lot of fun. We have a special guest joining us as well, Lincoln, who is Caitlin's cat.
So, if you join the Residence Education and Leadership Office, you'll have plenty, or you'll hear plenty of stories about him. I actually got my start in residence working for the Education and Leadership Office as a programmer, and then eventually became an intern. And I think one of my favorite things about having those roles was the autonomy you had over the programming that you got to do. So working on programs like Camp and being able to adjust it and incorporate my own ideas and insights of how I can make that program as beneficial for students as possible.
For sure. I think there are so many benefits of getting involved in university, and residence is a really good place to start, particularly if you're interested in building like a variety of skills and a broad range of abilities as well. So, we really encourage you, if you're thinking about ways to get involved or you want to give back to a community or form a community for yourself, this is a really excellent opportunity. If you do have any questions as you're watching this, feel free to send them in. We were able to get lots of questions ahead of time, which was good, but we're really excited to answer any questions that come up in the moment as well. So, can incoming first students who are in their first year apply for and hold any of these roles? So, many of these positions do carry a mentorship component, which benefits students. So, depending on that, we typically don't hire students in their first year, particularly during this process, as many of those students wouldn't be admitted to the university until after our application process closes. With that being said, we do at times need to hire midterm around January, and we definitely would consider first year applicants for that, but a big focus of that would be that mentorship piece and whether or not they have that skills and that experience and that knowledge that could benefit other students in their communities.
And if you're a first year student really looking forward to getting involved in residence, we'd strongly recommend you start getting involved with the student associations that live in your residence communities, or perhaps those crew leaders that work inside Lister Center, or even some of those service learning and engagement opportunities that come for all students who live in residence.
Sure. Okay. Yes, please, if there are any further questions, please keep them coming.
So I know we talked about the best part about being an RA. What would you say is the most difficult part for students in the RA role?
I think what can be challenging is it definitely is a role that requires pretty good time management. I think that our new model, we've been able to really clarify what our expectations are in terms of shift work and in terms of the monthly responsibilities. So students have an idea of how many hours they're working with. But a piece of that is, how do you balance, how do you make choices and make sure that you are working within those allotted hours? And also, really focusing when you have additional commitments like a job or a student leader position, how are you balancing your academics and your personal life as well? So I think that's a challenge that students face. I think in particular too, depending on the student leader position you're in, all of them work with some sort of like programming or engagement piece. So something that can be challenging is what are the best ways or most effective ways of getting students to be excited about a project or a program and getting attendance as well. I think that's something that our RAs or student leaders become very creative and really have to exercise some great skills that way, and we do offer a lot of training on that as well. Yeah, and I think something to recognize too definitely is that some of our positions, particularly RA or senior RA, sometimes we can be dealing with very difficult topics, whether that's helping students who might be in crisis or medical emergencies or things like that. That's just sort of the nature of living in a place where people, working in a place where people live, and particularly young people. But our staff, particularly our residence coordinator staff and our unit, is very focused on making sure that our student staff are receiving the best possible support and follow up when they might have had to deal with something difficult. But I think that's something to keep in mind as well, is that as much as there's lots of fun stuff that goes on, there can be many difficult topics that are being addressed in residence.
Definitely. For some of those fun things that go on, Ian, do you have a favorite program in all of your residence experience you've seen being run?
Wow.
It's a tough one, but I have mine on the top of my head.
Why don't you go first?
Because I just got back from one of the coolest events. We had a dog yoga event. So dogs and yoga, two things I love coming together in one beautiful event.
Yeah. Some of the things that I found really fun are, things, where there's been a lot of effort put in. So one thing that I saw in residence one time was an amazing race that was organized throughout all of the cities. So they had lots of volunteers from all the different residents involved to have clues or different activities, and there's a lot of research and a lot of time put into the effort of that. So I think that's obviously an example of a really big event, but smaller things on your community, even if it's like a scavenger hunt or something where you just have put a lot of time and intention to developing something fun and of interest to the community, those ones are always one of our most successful as well, and really being in tune with what your community is looking for.
Yeah, and speaking of fun programs, RAs hold a variety of different, they host and facilitate a variety of different programs that happen during orientation week. Do you mind sharing a little bit about their role in Base Camp?
Sure. So our RAs are involved in what's called Base Camp, which is our first year residence orientation. Many of you may have gone through it. So a lot of their role is facilitating opportunities for students to get to know our campus and get to know residents. So they'll lead activities such as scavenger hunts around campus, programs around academic success or personal success, service trips, so going out into Edmonton's neighborhoods and helping out in our community, as well as lots of activities related to floor bonding or community bonding. And similarly, we also have our Eastern Ascent programming, which our resident assistants are involved with, and that looks like a lot of ways of connecting the diverse population of our East Campus residence communities, sort of our cross-community connections to ensure that students who are coming into East Campus and up here residence feel very connected and feel a good idea of, how they can integrate into whether it's their first year or second year or third year or so on and so forth. Our residences offer, in general, this really excellent programming through those orientation weeks.
Yeah. So you might note that our applications for majority of positions close February 4th. But kind of the next step after you've submitted your application would be the application getting reviewed and then an event called group process. Do you mind sharing a little bit about how group process worked last year?
Sure. So group process, it's an opportunity for us to assess as sort of the hiring managers, how students will work with others, and how they can sort of manage, working in teams and create critical thinking and those sorts of things. So the activities are all sort of based around, teamwork, how to work well with others, what your communication skills look like, and just in general, a general first impression of you. So I think that's something really important to keep in mind. So after group process is when we make our selection into who we're bringing in for our individual interviews, and those will be held with at least one RC and one other resident staff member. And they'll get a better chance to get in tune with your more specific experience and your more specific aptitudes as a staff member. And while we may not be able to select all of our applicants to apply, we do typically get around 300 applications, and we are hiring for about 140. We do offer the chance, if you would like any feedback or any sort of follow-up regarding your interview, we can always coordinate that moving forward. And if you're not successful this one year, we always encourage you to reapply the next year, ideally after receiving some of that feedback. All of our positions, as I mentioned before, at the top of the hour are available through our eResLife portal, which is available on our Jobs and Residence page on the Resident Services website, so residence.ualberta.ca. If you have any questions related to your application or want to submit, you can email reslife@ualberta.ca, and we'll be happy to answer them. And our applications are due on Sunday, February 4th at 11:59 p.m. Yeah. So if there are no further questions, we are going to wrap it up. With that being said, this Facebook Live will be available on our Resident Services Facebook page as a video moving forward. If you have any further questions, you're welcome to comment in the box below, and we'll be happy to answer them next week. And again, you're always welcome to reach out to your own resident assistant if you live in residence, or at reslife@ualberta.ca if you have any questions regarding our process. And we hope to see a lot of your applications moving forward. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks.
Have a good afternoon. Bye.